This is a tutorial on how to use Retina Engrave 3 so that you can use the laser engraver in the digital learning lab. When you open up Retina Engrave, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. The first thing that you want to make sure that you do is go up to where it says File and look all the way over to the right and make sure that this is Pro Series 24x16. Sometimes when you first open it, it will be as one of these Muse, like a Muse Core. That's going to change this workspace because each laser engraver has only so much space for material. Ours is the Pro Series 24x16, and all that means is it can handle up to 24 inches by 16 inches of material within the machine. So that is what you want to make sure that you do first. So on the screen, we're looking at a few things which we'll go through one by one. Here, you can have multiple projects going on at the same time, but we're just going to work with one. You're going to see layers once you have multiple objects on the workspace. This white grid is the workspace, and it represents that 24x16 inch space that will actually be in the Pro Series laser engraver. You have some tools across the top, and then you have this bar that's on the right that will change depending upon what you click on or what you have active. So let's start with something very simple. Let's say you have material within the laser engraver and you just want to engrave some sort of image. In the left-hand corner, you're going to see the picture icon. We are going to import just a very simple image. We're just going to pick a Pikachu, go ahead and open that. It's going to import the file, and you should see something like this. From here, you can resize it based on the material that you have within the machine. Right now, this is looking to be roughly 15 inches by 12. Again, depending upon your material, you may need to resize by just dragging the corners that exist here. So after you resize it and you have it selected, this is where we can see this right-hand bar change. Because I have something selected, it's going to give me a lot of options and tools based upon what I have selected. In terms of engraving, it is called a raster. Rasters are engraving, vectors are for cuts, which we'll get to in a minute. There are a few things on here like position, size, and angle, and those are things that you can do just within the workspace by rotating it, moving it, dragging the corners to make it bigger or smaller. The properties are what's important for when it comes time to engrave. There's about two things that you can do. You can do halftone, which will look like this, and I'll actually make Pikachu just a little bit bigger. It is an image. If you remember, it's actually a full color image, but what the laser engraver is going to do is kind of burn where it has certain shading or darker colors to kind of resemble that image in a black and white kind of look. Halftone gives you a realistic look at what the picture would be. Threshold will kind of just outline it. Some people like this. It's kind of called a silhouette. Or you can do halftone depending on what you want to do. And you can also hit invert and it'll flip everything. So everything that you see in black is going to have the laser engraving. So if you don't like that, you can go back and forth. Resolution, you keep that at 250. And power and speed, changing that changes what the laser actually does. Power, it's at 100%. You can cut the laser power to 50 or anything lower. Just know that you may not get a full laser engraving. And then speed, the laser head does not spend as much time at a particular place if it's at 100%. If you slow it down, it will be engraving longer, which means your engraving will be darker or will burn more. So this is a little trial and error. And then blur, edge, and intensity, you can play with those to see what you like, but it kind of changes a little bit depending on what you have on the screen. So I'm going to remove Pikachu. You can just click and delete it. Now let's say that you want to add something that wants to be cut. that would be a vector. So let's go back up to the images. I have something that I've already made in terms of a cut, a little monogram situation. I can resize it just like I have done with the raster image. And with this selected, you can see that there are different options on the right. You still have the position, size, and angle, but now we're working with a vector instead of a raster. As a reminder, a vector is cutting, a raster is engraving. You can choose infill. So currently as it's set, it will just be cutting where the lines are, but if you do put a fill, it will actually vector sort of engrave this place and make that a little bit darker. There are different types of infills, horizontal, vertical. You can do contour lines, whatever your style is, and it'll kind of show up. If you import a vector and actually want it to be rasterized, which means you're going to turn it into a raster image and it will engrave it, all you have to do is click on raster, and then it shows you the properties for raster. So you can take any vector and make it a raster if you don't want to cut it. The last thing for vector is the vector engraving parameters, and that shows you the speed, the power, the current, and the passes. Depending on your material, this is where you would need to change it. If you have a very, very thin material, you may need to drop down the speed and the power. If you have something very thick that you're trying to cut through, you may want to max these out at 100 and have it go a few passes, which means it will go around. So if I change this to 2, it will do this entire vector cut twice. That means that the cut will be deeper. And if it doesn't cut enough, you can up it, again, depending on your material. So let's check some of the toolbars that are up at the top. You have zoom. We have fit all, which means it will fit the entire workspace in the screen. So let me just zoom out, click fit all. Pan is the hand, allows you to move side to side, up and down. Then I can hit fit all to go back to the original screen. And then there's snapping. If you want to snap to these grid lines, you want to have this engaged. Let me just click on this so I can show you moving it. You can see that it snaps and stays with the grid. If I want to have a little bit more freedom, I can uncheck this and I can smoothly drag this where I want to. You have the pointer, which allows you to select things. Also, you can make your own shapes. You have lines, rectangles, ellipses, polygons, triangles, and stars. So if I just want to make a square, it's automatically going to make it as a vector. That will be a cut square that I can cut something out of, put my own image in the middle. I can do circles as well. Whatever shapes that you want to do, you can overlay them. We also have the pen, which it allows you to kind of make an organic free shape. We have the knife, which allows you to cut through particular images to make a different line segment. There we go. This has made another point that I can mess with. I've cut this in half and now I've got a line. I have text, which if you click on the text and then click into the workspace, then it will allow you to edit those. On the right-hand side, you see the appearance. You can change the font style, the alignment. There's a lot of things that you can do with that. There's also a monogram feature that if you click that, you can click on the different types of styles and then put your text here. I'll just put the text for Digital Learning Lab. Select this first one, hit D, click OK. It'll generate it and it'll automatically put this in here. Of course, as a vector file, you can then rasterize it if you want to, but this could be cut out and you can mess with it how you want to. There are also some extra tools over here with certain things selected. I'm going to click on my monogram, so this is actually going to visually make sense. You can have this flip horizontally. You can see how this is kind of mirrored now. I'm going to flip that back, flip vertically, it's kind of upside down. I can rotate this 90 degrees. I could also click and hold this little antenna up at the top to rotate, and I can rotate it in the other direction. Now this selection makes sense when you're grouping. So if I want to keep things together and move them together, let's say I want this circle and this square to always move together, I will need to group it, and then everything will move around. And you can see that since I made that cut, only part of that circle came with me. So it doesn't matter if I click just this circle section, the whole thing is grouped together. It's going to move. I can resize and do a lot with that. I can also then ungroup it. So now everything is individual again. And then there's some interesting things that you can do. We go back to this. If you have multiple things selected, there is this create compound. It puts things together. You can see that this does some interesting shape making, and then there are some other options here as well. And then you should see, depending on what you have selected, is bring forward and send backwards, which I'm going to bring your attention here to the left-hand side where it says layers and objects. As I've been putting things down, it's been putting every item, every object layered. So what is at the bottom is going to happen last in the laser engraver. The thing that's at the top will be the one thing that gets done first and then goes down. And you can see once I'm selecting it, it shows you that. It'll do each thing in order. If there's something that you don't want to be done, you can just toggle its visibility. This is the entire download. Let's say I just want this group. I actually don't want that in my laser engraving or cut. I can toggle the visibility. Maybe I have something exactly where I need it and I don't want to accidentally move it. You can lock it and I can no longer mess with this or do any edits to move it. I can come back here to unlock it, and now I can move it. One last thing I do want to show you. Let's say you do want to cut and engrave. You want to make sure that the engraving happens first and then the cut. So let me just pull my Pikachu in here. Just kind of put my Pikachu here. My Pikachu is going to be engraved first and then the cut will happen. Reason why you want to do that is if you cut first, that piece is going to fall out of the material and may not be in the exact spot. Make sure you engrave it and then do all cuts last. One last thing I do want to show you is sometimes you'll be making your own pieces that you're going to cut and then engraving something on there, like if you were making an ornament. If you want that to be centered, here's how you do it. You select all of the items, and then you're going to see up here on this right bar that always changes depending upon what you have. There are some sort of alignments here. And to make sure things are centered, you can click Align Center and then Align Middle. And that is going to center your image with the cut that you're going to make. Once you have your file, you want to make sure that you save, export project to file, and you're going to bring that file to the Digital Learning Lab, and myself or one of the student workers will assist you in developing your creation.